Hey, everyone. I'm Becca, he's Matt, and this is Becca's Book Club Adventure.
Hello. It's been a couple of weeks since we had a podcast session because Becca was, we were both busy, but Becca was the busy one. I was like a tag along. Becca, do you want to tell everybody what was eating up our time?
Yeah, so we've been busy celebrating my brother, your brother-in-law, and our now sister-in-law, and their wedding day.
How much younger is can we use names? Do you want to stay away from names?
I don't care.
Okay. How much younger is John than you?
3 years.
3? Okay. I think he's close to 9 years younger than I am. But it's never felt that way. And their wedding was so cool. Anyways, I mean, very important part of the wedding. I walked grandma down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you might have had a little bit more of an important part of the wedding.
I might have been the officiant and the person to preside over legal paperwork.
Very cool. Good job, by the way. I know we've already talked about this. Anyways, had this thought. It happened like 5 or 6 days after the wedding. I was thinking back to when Elizabeth and I got married. I don't know how much but we had originally asked my father to marry us. At the time, my dad was like my best friend. We did everything together. He was the guy I confided in. Blah blah blah. Anyways, he took a few weeks to answer me, but it was essentially a no-go. And in hindsight, I feel like I don't know how much of a like real answers I got, but he was like, getting ordained was so much of a to do and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't want to like mess up the wedding by creating a script and stuff. And I understand that perhaps he could have been too emotional and maybe thought he wasn't going to be able to pull it off, blah, blah, blah. But you made it all seem so easy, which I'm sure it wasn't. But you made it seem super easy. And I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of people out there in the Googleverse who are like me wanting to ask somebody to marry them,
Mm-hmm.
or they might be like you and they've been asked. And either way, people don't have any idea what to do. So I thought maybe I could pick your brain and we could spill a whole bunch of information and help people out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So for agenda for people listening, I will put stuff down in the show notes. I'll make chapters on YouTube that you can fast forward through or whatever. But we're going to be talking about how to get ordained, how to write a wedding, how to interact with the couple and get what you need from them, how to do the actual officiating on the day of, what kind of paperwork is involved, all this kind of stuff. Understand if we're not going to be talking about books, so if this is not your cup of tea today, I get it. Book club will be back next time. But before we actually start talking about the wedding, Becca, can you let our listeners know how to contact us in case they have any questions that come out of today?
Of course. If listeners want to join us, as always, here's how. Leave us a comment or review or email us at bookclubbybecca@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at Becca's Book Club Adventure.
Awesome. Oh, fun fact, I didn't tell you about this, but I started a Substack for us.
Which is?
Substack is
I've heard of it. I just don't really know what it's used for.
so I don't fucking know what it is either.
But we have one.
Okay, so here's what I know. You go to substack.com, and you and I, you can start an individual page. And on your page, you can host a blog, you can host a podcast, you can post stuff, right? And it's very easy for people to give you their email address and like sign up. And then instead of going to substack.com, every time you as the creator make a post, it gets emailed out to your list. So I started a Substack for us because it's just one more place to find our podcast. But also I had this thought that people could get notified in their emails. We could even potentially consider some type of newsletter. Like, I don't even know what the hell that means, but I started I started a Substack for us. And if anybody wants to sign up for that, you can search for us. It's like Becca's Book Club Adventure on Substack. I can't even give you a link at this point. I have no idea. Um, I
I
also
love the energy.
I got the idea for our podcast because I started a personal blog there, um, which maybe that was premature. Let's move on from that. Okay, so let's talk wedding. Wedding. Ready, Becca?
Yes.
Okay. We'll do final thoughts about the wedding and the overall vibe and stuff at the end. Let's get into the meat and potatoes first.
How to's.
Um, yes, let's talk about becoming ordained. Um, I'm going to throw probably a handful of questions at you each time, and I'm going to let you kind of pick and choose how to answer. But this section is how to become ordained. So, what does it take to become ordained? Do you have to go through a church? How much does getting ordained cost? What are some steps you need to take? What are hoops you need to jump through? With there being so much information when you go to Google and say how to get ordained, and you get way too many search results, what is your advice for people, and or what did you do?
I was gonna say, my advice maybe is abysmal at best, but what I did, I can share. So it's actually really easy to get ordained. What's harder is to become legally an officiant. So the ordained part, you just Google, um, how, please ordain me, whatever you want, really. And a bunch of recommendations are going to come up. I'm not sure that I recommend them, but I use the Universal Life Church. It felt fine. I actually signed up at 4 different websites. I can't remember the name of all of them, but the other, like the Universal Ministers was one, I think, and one of them was like literally a dude's name. He was like, I had a really hard time doing this, so I made a website so you can do it. And you're like, bro, did you not check out the previous 4? But okay. And the reason I did this is because in Ohio, you need a piece of paper that says that you've been ordained and is signed. And to get that, you need to pay for it. So it's free to get ordained, and the websites will tell you that it's free to get ordained. But to get the paperwork is not free.
And okay, does do you know, does that differ state to state? I'm sure it does.
It does. It does.
Okay.
Some states don't care. Um, and some, what I found out, so Uncle Tim was at the wedding and he married someone and he had a day license. Like some states, you're just ordained for the day to marry a couple.
It's like a day pass to the gym or the spa.
But I'm good to go in Ohio for a long time now. So you have to get the paperwork to come in the mail to you, which um it's like 30 to 50 bucks on all of them. So like not a lot of cost, but you're like, okay,
Of
could you just
course.
like email me this PDF? No, they had to mail it to me with a bunch of plastic garbage.
Okay, so in order okay, to summarize, Becca's talking about, on the one hand, you get ordained, and on the second hand, you become, we'll use the word registered
Yeah.
to officiate.
Yes.
Okay.
So the
So
next step,
hold on.
mm,
How do you get ordained? Let's just start with step one. How did you get ordained?
you typed in your name and email, and the website went, "You're ordained!" Confetti.
Okay. Can you register Can you become registered to officiate without being ordained?
Not in the state of Ohio.
Okay, so the free step was necessary for the paid step, but the paid step was with a different entity. How do you go about becoming registered to officiate?
So the $30 to $50 was still with
Same,
the
okay, same Universal Life Church.
Universal Life
Yeah.
Church, yes. Then you have to pay the state, and the state is like you go to the registry or whatever, registrar, and there you fill out your name, your address, your phone number, a lot of information, and the state's like, this is going to become public record, which, like, okay, your entire life is public record in the state of Ohio. When you sell a house, when you get licensed, when you get this, you buy a house, you blah, 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 all of that's public record. Um, so I could see someone deciding not to do it because it becomes public record. But also, it's like I went and I looked up people I knew who were ordained, and I looked to see if I could find their phone numbers online and like other things, and that wasn't easy to find. Sure, it's out there, but you would have to put a lot of effort in. So, anywho, and that was $10. So I had to submit
$10.
the PDF of my paperwork saying I was ordained and pay the state $10. So all in all, I think I paid $40.
Okay. And then so you had to like scan the paper that came in the mail in order to create a PDF to upload it to damn.
I was like, why can't you just email me this? I'll still pay you the $30, but could you email me this paperwork? No, I had to use Adobe PDF Creator on my phone.
Okay. So to summarize, if I would like to become ordained and officiate a wedding, firstly, check your state laws.
Yes.
Second, if you live in Ohio or a state with similar laws, which requires 2 steps, go to Google, type in, I want to get ordained, and pick your poison. Becca did the Universal Life Church. Type in your name, type in your email address, you're ordained. Then on that same website, you have to pay them to send you the ordainment paperwork along with other shit.
Yeah. I got a parking pass I can never use. I got a name tag that says clergy member. I got like 4 bumper stickers.
Okay, so then after you receive all of that, you can throw away the crap, hold on to your officiant
Yes.
thing, take a picture of it with your phone or whatever, convert that into a PDF, go to your state registrar's website and find the link. What is the like what is it called? Like wedding officiant?
Well, no, it's just minister. So like it's a
Okay.
licensing board. You become a licensed minister.
Okay. So you find the link to become a licensed minister, upload your PDF, pay them more money, you're good to go. Okay. So now you can do the damn thing.
Mhm. Yep.
But technically, this is only necessary to be done at least a day before the wedding.
I mean, I would do it a few more days before that, but to each their
Sure.
own.
Which, okay. So then there's the couple themselves, right? And hopefully the couple asked you with plenty of time to get everything done. But
Yes.
like leading up to the ceremony, what was your interaction like with the couple? Did you lead did you lead a horse to water so they could drink, or did they lead you to water so you could drink? And like what was that interaction like? What would you recommend for people? And is this a dumb question considering it was all family rather than like friends or colleagues or something?
Dumb question because it was family. But it definitely changes the answer and sculpts it, right? So, I would say I led them to water just because, um, depending on how many weddings you've been to, they feel a little cookie cutter. Not maybe cookie cutter, but like there's a standard format to weddings. And unless you have paid a lot of attention in the middle of a ceremony, which depending on the person you are, maybe you do not. Maybe you are there for the party and the friend, and so you sit through the ceremony. you maybe didn't pick up on all the pieces and the orders and whatnot. And I could be wrong. I don't know how much everyone is really involved in the planning of their ceremonies. Like, I had a few friends who had the full Catholic sacrament, right? And so that wedding, you don't really get a say in anything. It
It
happens without
is.
you.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I had uh, to come up with something. Um, and I know Jonathan and Kenzie were really just they wanted to get married. They're not sticklers for certain particular details. They're really big picture people. So I was like, okay, well, let me work on the details because I don't think those matter too much to you.
Okay. Given that you were leading them to water, then we can still stick with the whole leading up to the ceremony thing. Um, what was the prep like for the day of? What were you taking into consideration to make sure that the ceremony was good and complete? Are there things that, you have to have? And how would you go about finding those things? I'm thinking of things like the
Vows.
vowels. There's going to be some type of intro. There's going to be some type of dismissal. And then what are the nice to haves? And how do you go about thinking of and or finding those things using ChatGPT or Google or your brain or whatever?
I think your
So
standard
wedding content creation.
Yeah, I think your standard have to haves is some type of wedding welcome, like the intro you mentioned, which can be like literally whatever you want it to be. So that's what I
Yo,
did most of the writing for the wedding, and I did most of the creation, the drafting, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But then you typically, and nothing's a have to have at a wedding, but typically you see vows. um, there are many traditional vows out there, and you can write your own vows. Traditional vows, there's like 42 versions of those. So, go find your favorites, ask the couple if they care, to each their own. I
well,
was like,
okay. So if there's 42 different versions, I'm assuming we're going to be going from like super religious, ultra traditional vowels all the way to non-religious, like secular, almost vague. So how do you go about is there just a website with all 42 versions on it that people can peruse, or would you recommend any sort of like keyword searches?
maybe keyword word searches would be good, and it probably depends on what type of vows you want. When I meant like, there's a bunch of like when you put traditional vowels into Google, you will get different variations, but they're all like, is it to have and to hold or have and hold? Like, li- like the dumb filler words are really what gets changed in some of those. But the overall meaning and flow of it, they were all pretty much the similar. But then, yeah, you have other various ends of the spectrum as far as um, how religious or not.
I shouldn't have interrupted you. What are more like things that are typically gonna exist in the wedding?
The next is the declaration of intent. So that is your I do's or I wills or whatever you want to do. I've seen some different variations from different weddings. I just had them say their I do's. Do you take so and so to be your lawfully wedded person? Blah blah blah. So that part of it. I've also seen people incorporate the wedding parties that are there. Of like, does this group say that they will have and hold and support this couple as they grow and nourish? Blah blah blah. We will. Whatever you want. Then after the declaration of intent, then you have your proclamation. And the proclamation is the officiant saying, I proclaim by the power invested in me by the state of Ohio and whatever online church I signed up for, you are now partners.
Okay.
And that's typically where the kiss then goes in before the couple comes off. So those are like your have to haves. And then people add lots of things in there. Typically, you'll see unity ceremonies, which is like, we lit candles, we watered flowers, we poured sand, we wrote in a book together. So many things there. And then readings are really common, and you can have as many of those as you want. Um, Hand fastings are like another thing that I feel like I see commonly, but haven't actually seen at a wedding. And then I'm sure there's a plethora of other things you can incorporate into a ceremony.
Okay. Um, so we talked about your interactions with the couple. Now we talk about the content of the wedding, and I'm my next question is a marriage of those two things.
Yeah.
You have the content, you need to run it by the couple, and I want to keep this in like lessons learned or advice you would give others. I think the only thing that I think would be somewhat obvious that I could use it as an example here is like asking the couple what names you would like them to say, what that you would like
Yes.
to say. Like, okay, so we've been talking about John and Kinsey. His real name is Jonathan. Her real name is Mackenzie. Do they want their real names? Do they want their nicknames? Do they want to mix and match kind of a thing? When it comes to the rest of the content, is there any advice you would give people for molding this to the couple or interacting with the couple to figure out the content?
Yeah. I was thinking about, like, what I would put in a questionnaire to, like, ask this if everyone was like, "You need to make this a business model and start marrying people." And I was like, "That sounds ridiculous." And then I was like, "Well, I live really close to Hocking Hills. I could do a lot of elopements out there." But to your point, like, in a questionnaire, I would ask and I wouldn't schedule them I would just, like, ask the questions. You could ask the couples separately or together, depending on what vibe works for you, but what they wanna be called is important. Any language you want them to avoid, especially given, like, a lot of the nods to, like, people are property that happens in weddings, and I don't like that vibe. So, like, making sure that the couple feels the same or doesn't feel the same or how they want to be pronounced. Do you want to be Mr. and Mrs. So and so? Do you want to be your first names and just a married couple? Like so many different ways to be pronounced. Um, how long you want the ceremony to be? Um, some people really want short. Some people don't want to miss the drama of the moment. Duxie would like in on this shindig. Uh, you want to deep breathe a little bit harder there, bud? Um, I would ask, what type of religious content or non-religious content they would like in the wedding. This is where I think they needed the most, help and support. Um,
Okay. Yeah, that one can be difficult because weddings aren't necessarily just about
they're not.
you, the couple. A lot of it is a give and take with making sure the parents are going to get what they want because parents are opinionated. And then you're going to be having old people come to your wedding. So they're going to have different values and traditions than you. And you got to throw them a bone and a good call out.
Yeah, and it is about you, but also how much do you wanna deal with hearing from them afterwards? And John and Kenzie were like, "We don't want to hear from them." I was like, "Great, I can make that disappear." And then I had like some ideas that were I'm gonna call them non-traditional, but they're really not non-traditional. But like I wanted to do a meditation in the thing because that felt very on brand for them. So like I pitched that idea to them, and then I it got pitched to the moms and the parents to kind of come back of like, ooh, do we like this? Do we not? And I did all of that before I even wrote it.
Okay. Did you talk to the moms or did you let the couple talk to the moms?
Um, I talked to my mom because that was
Okay.
easy.
I'm guessing if you weren't marrying your brother,
That would be different.
probably let the couple talk to their families. Uh, okay, so let's take a couple of leaps forward and we assume you're ordained, you're registered, you have the wedding content written. What was preparing or practicing, or what kind of recommendation or advice would you give in that world for people before they actually get up in front of the
Ah.
gathering?
I think it depends on how much public speaking experience you have and how much that does or doesn't sway you. And then also acknowledging that that process might be emotional. Um, so I did not practice a lot beforehand, other than the day before. I
What
practiced.
with the level of public speaking for you personally, would you rate yourself? We don't need to talk about your job or hobbies or volunteer efforts or anything. Um, but what level would you give yourself? Low, medium, high? Or if a number out of 10 would be easier.
I'm gonna go with a number out of 10, and I would say 7. I do it a lot. I don't think I do a good job. People tell me I do a good job all the time, so clearly I struggle with self-awareness. So,
Okay, so you have comfort.
have comfort speaking
Okay.
in groups. Yes.
Okay. So therefore you did not practice a lot, but if somebody would to rate themselves as like a 3 out of 10, maybe they should practice a little bit more. Okay. So how did you go ahead and practice then?
So then I read through all of the parts and pieces of it with my parents. I thought that was probably the best thing I could do, especially because they were maybe not the most opinionated, but they would be of that group of being opinionated. So if you can like practice in front of people that might be like those folks that might be a little more opinionated, can you hear the race that's going on in this household?
A little bit. It's all good. Who cares?
Um, I would practice in front of those people, on top of practicing with people that you're really comfortable with, because they'll point out things of like the way you decided to phrase something, and what it may or may not mean. So I forget exactly what it was, um, but I had made like a small joke, and mom, it didn't hit with mom and dad, so I was able to rewrite that right before the ceremony.
Okay. So you did change some stuff after practicing. Okay. Um, that's a really good anecdote because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'll just practice in front of the mirror. Practicing in front of other people, you get the reactions and you can like get advice and you can gauge changes and stuff.
They can tell you if you're
Um,
too fast or too slow.
so now your content's written, you've practiced, you're ready. Now it's the day of. Um, I think we can couch all of this. So, okay, when I got married, we didn't really have a great wedding venue coordinator.
Hmm.
However, the officiant that we went with had been officiating weddings for frickin', I don't know, 30 some years. So she was able to walk everybody through the ceremony.
Yes,
You did not do that. You
I was prepared to, but I didn't have to.
okay, cool, cool, cool. We can go down both lines of questioning. So, because I was there, because Elizabeth was reading, and so I was her plus one, and then I got dragged into other things. Anyways, there was a very well put together event coordinator. I'm sure the parents thought she was a little bit overwhelming, but I think the rest of us loved her.
That's also
Um,
what an event coordinator is.
yeah. Who told everybody when they were going to do the processional, how they were going to line up, blah, blah, blah. So, um, let's talk about what what should you do if you do not have said person and this is your first or second time doing it, right? So it's not just like old hat. How would you advise somebody to prepare for the logistics of a rehearsal or day of?
So that was part of the original questioning with John and Kenzie was, what is your processional order? What is your recessional order? Groomsmen's, bridesmaids walking down together, forwards or backwards? Who's in the party? Like who is walking whom down? Like I walked myself down, but sometimes you see the officiant and the groomsmen walk out together. But mom really wanted to walk with the groomsmen, so she did. Like those kinds of questions. And then the day of when you're organizing, what I have seen work best because you're working with a large number of people who either haven't been in many weddings or they're all just they're excited to be with each other, so they're not really paying attention. So you typically start with practicing the ceremony and putting people everyone putting everyone where they are, and then practicing the recessional, so the leaving of the area, and then you turn around and you do the processional back in, and then they know where they're going. Because if you start with the processional, people don't know where they're actually supposed to stand. So you have to start with where they're standing.
Okay. Smart.
And then you do it 2 or 3 times, depending on, what type of vibe group you got.
Okay. And then otherwise, directing the rest of it is just you have the wedding already laid out. So you're like, and the sister of the bride is going to give a reading, and the brother of the groom is going to play an instrument and really badly, and right things like that. Okay.
Because that's all the transition stuff you also have to put in your script that, like, I put some of it in there, but I needed probably to put a little bit more in there than I did.
Okay. So, lesson learned, advice to any listeners: add the transitional cues into your wedding content and or notes or and or outline.
Yep.
Okay. But you didn't actually end up having to do any of that.
Yeah.
So you were just like another pawn on the chessboard for the event coordinator to move around.
Which was wild
Um,
and weird, but whatever.
would you suggest to other people to be a little forceful and take this opportunity as another way to practice speaking some of these things, or just go with the flow and do what you're told?
I think each person's different. I would have appreciated practicing so the groomsmen and the bridesmaids could hear it, for a first time without that. The way it was kinda it went that day, it just felt like we were on a really tight timeline, and so I didn't want to practice everything, um, for that, and then also there were some opinionated people there, and I was like, "Well, maybe I actually don't want your opinion right now because now's not the time."
Sure, 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 sure. Um, okay. And once you were doing it, like up there, all of us people in our suits are sitting there staring at you. Was it different than you had imagined? And if yes, would that give you any advice for helping people prepare? Like
Mhm.
expectations not matching reality or what have you?
I I don't know that it was different than what I expected. So we were on level ground. So sometimes you'll see like a stair stepping depending on where you're going, and you might be a step or two above the couple, and the couple might be a step or two. There might be another step or two before you get to the level ground. All to say, my brother is taller than me. Kenzie was taller than me in her heels. I couldn't see anything past them. So I was kind of hoping to like look at my parents and her parents, and all I could see was Elizabeth. So thankfully, I just made eye contact with Elizabeth, but otherwise, and I was also like, because of the way the venue was set up, really close to Jonathan and Kenzie. And I was like, because if I stepped up any further, I was going to knock over their plant.
It was a very intimate setting, which I appreciated and I think a lot of people appreciated.
Yes, yes.
Um,
So yeah, which
but
worked out
maybe
nicely.
like the mothers of the bride and groom aren't going to think of things for you, the officiant. They're going to be concerned about grandma and grandpa and the bride and the groom, and um, so maybe advocate for yourself. Maybe talk to the event coordinator about finding a little riser or box or something so you feel more comfortable.
Well, and I wore the flattest of shoes I owned. So if I had worn
Yes, yeah, you did.
maybe some heels, it would have been fine. The other thing that I did, so the other question you should always ask your couple and or the sound people they coordinate with is what type of microphone you're going to get. So there are a lot of people will have lavaliers that attach on or handheld mics, and handheld mics often get put on a stand. Advantages to all of them. The poor sound person, I think, was shocked when I was like, I will take the lavalier and I will take it off in the middle of the ceremony for the vows, and then I will put it back on. And she's like, do you think you can handle that? I was like, "I do it all the time as a teacher." Because when you put it on and off, it makes a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So, if you're gonna do something like that, first off, you should tell your sound person so they can maybe make it a little quiet when you're doing that. But also, I did that because I didn't want the mic in the pictures necessarily, the mic stand.
Mm.
But my number one pet peeve is because people often opt for that for the picture person, you never hear the couple say the vows.
Yeah.
So that's why I pulled it off a little bit so you could at least hear both of us talking.
As a viewer, it worked, by the way. And I didn't hear the rustling of you taking it on and off. So I don't know if you were just really delicate or if the sound person was A1, but
I'm gonna go with
that
both.
worked out really well. Okay. Um, last part of the wedding day is the reception.
Mhm.
Now, given that you um, got your brother hitched, your family, you're going to the reception. I don't know. Did you do any research or did anything come up on websites about what officiants should do at the reception? Is it like don't go unless the couple invites you, or okay? So what did
Yeah.
you find out, and what would you
So
let people know?
I'm nodding not because I did personal research for this wedding, obviously, but, when I got married, Kevin and I asked a friend who happened to be a pastor, which was wildly convenient for us. So she already had all the paperwork done, but we were her first wedding. And so she did have a lot more questions than maybe other officiants would have because it was her first one. And so things that officiants might ask for or might do, they might ask clarification on if they're invited to the reception or ceremony, or not the ceremony, the reception. And I think as a couple, you get to decide. You're going to give food to your all your other people. Why not give food to your officiant? They probably aren't going to stick around for dancing anyhow if that's the part that you think's weird. They also might be asking for travel compensation. So like with that, my friend was like, I don't need paid for the ceremony, but could you pay for my hotel room? I was like, you got it, girl. Or they could ask for a fee for their services. And maybe not, it might be and or, but things to keep in mind.
Okay, these are things that I like when I got married. Right, we asked our officiant so far in advance that like I just sent her an invitation and to save the date and all of those steps. So I didn't even like I didn't even call her and be like, hey, do you want to, it was just a part of, and then um, when she responded that she wasn't going to be staying for the reception, I was like, oh, well, okay, we don't need to feed her then. Right. And she lived in the city we got married. So there was no, so those are really good. Those are really good pieces of advice.
Yeah.
A1.
And I don't know if she did, but another common thing that, like, especially if they're from a religious organization, they might ask for not them to be paid, but for a donation to the church that they serve.
Yeah. Our officiant did not ask for any money, although um, Elizabeth and I had known our officiant since we were kids. So that I wasn't really sure. Anyways, I ended up writing her a check anyway. As just here's a present. Do with it whatever you want. So
Tip your wedding people.
yeah, tip your wedding people. If they're not going to ask for compensation, still give them a token of appreciation. You know. Um, okay, so I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to ask you. Um, and you already talked about, I was going to ask you, do you think you'll turn this into a side hustle?
I don't know. I don't know. It would be so easy, but then also, like, I don't want to set up an LLC, but I would take gifts.
Technically, if you don't ask people to pay you and you just take gifts, you don't need an LLC because it's not
Right.
revenue, right? It's just
Right.
a present.
But that also means I need to have a backbone and I need to tell people no because I don't want to go or their date's inconvenient for me or whatever.
Well, that's true. Well, it was a lovely ceremony.
Thanks.
Um, I wanted to ask you, as the officiant, were you able to take in the day and the ceremony? Like, I don't know if I would be able to. I'd be so like almost like tunnel vision of can't fuck this up, um, kind of a thing. So Were you able to get a sense of the day and appreciate it in that way?
Um, we showed up 3 hours before the ceremony, so I had a beer with my brother. I got to watch Kenzie get dressed. I had a little panic attack in the corner at one point. Um, and then as soon as we started walking down, I felt very serene. So I do feel like I got to take the ceremony in, um, and kind of enjoy that moment. And then as soon as it was done and I knew people were going to start talking to me, that's when that's when it stopped being so serene. People all said very, very nice things, but I get overwhelmed easily.
Sure. Yeah, and I didn't wanna necessarily open that can of worms, um, but I guess I will ask an overall question. When dealing with feedback, do you have any advice for people, or is it just a smile and nod?
I think you should take whatever approach feels authentic to you. I think we always think about like, how am I supposed to respond in this moment? And you're supposed to respond by how you feel. So I do have a tendency to smile and nod. There was kind of a funny moment at the wedding. I had the couple sign their fake wedding license in the middle of the ceremony, and I gave it to them to take pictures. And later, one of the other family members found it in the grass, and they were like, "Are you missing some paperwork?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about," because literally I didn't. They walked me over, and they were trying to kind of rib me and tease me, and I was just kind of like, no, you're wrong, and here's why." Um, and so I think, I didn't hold my ground as much as I would love to, but to each their own, right? You respond authentically in the moment.
I guess maybe that's another piece of advice in general for people. Make copies, have extras just in case.
Yeah, but there's only one legal one that gets mailed in.
Yeah.
But if you upgrade for the really fancy wedding package, they'll send you ceremonial wedding licenses that look pretty that you can sign in the middle of the ceremony.
Nice. I definitely got to take in the wedding. Um, Definitely had 0 pressure on me. Uh, and I think this is gonna be as much a compliment to you as it is to John and Kenzie. I think the thing that I took away from the wedding the most is just how much them it was. So, on the one hand, as a couple, they're in my opinion, especially for their age, because at their age, I was not, they're seemingly extremely self-aware, and I don't know how much of that self-awareness was massaged by you, um, but at as much John and Kenzie as it also felt very Becca. It didn't feel like, because I know you so well, it didn't feel like somebody different was up there doing a thing. It felt like you were up there doing a thing. And that whole melding of those 2, everybody was themselves. It was very authentic. It was very genuine. It was very self-aware. And I think that made it feel even more lovey-dovey,
Mhm.
you know? And
I
I really appreciated that.
I think that comes from what I kind of did in the intro, and if you were looking to, like, create a business out of this or do this, the way that I created the intro, you have your little welcome people to celebrate the couple. I took a moment to kind of do a meditation where we talked about, can you feel the sunshine and take in the nice breeze and like kind of like really set the tone of like, we're gonna slow down, we're gonna take in the moment. Made Jonathan and Kenzie like face their people and lock in that moment that way. And then you
Look at it and make a memory. Yeah.
yeah. Um and then you tell stories, right? So then at that point, I told a story about the couple, and because I knew them well, I had lots of options to pick from. And so if you don't, when you're talking to the couple, like ask them when they decided they were gonna get that they were each other's person for life, or like when they first met each other's parents, or like those kinds of big moments in a thing, so you can kind of talk about their retelling of it, right? So you can kind of make it a little more personal.
Nice. Well, um, moving on to close out the episode, we were all away from home for what, 5 days?
A chunk of time.
Yeah. Um, it didn't feel that long, but it also felt pretty long. And I know it felt really long because when I got home from the wedding, my grass was dead, like crispy beige sadness.
Oh, no. What about the trees?
Hanging on by a root and a prayer, Becca. I've been giving them water. They've been giving me judgment, you know?
Well, I think it might be perfect time to thank today's sponsor, Summer Drought, which in turn is brought to you by climate change.
Are you tired of green grass, happy trees, and a basic sense of hydration? Summer Drought has you covered in dust, regret, and crunchy lawn shit.
Featuring dead grass you pretend is dormant, sun-bleached bushes that whisper, "Give up," and trees so crispy they sound like Nature Valley bars when you breathe near them.
Bonus, watch your neighbors passive aggressively water their lawns during restricted hours while you debate the cost of watering your dead grass.
Summer Drought, because nothing says September like sunburnt lawn and half-dead landscaping.
For real, for real, for real. I have been watering my grass and by extension, my new trees every morning. Um, and if not in the morning, I'll do it in the evening, depending upon what the work schedule is. Every day since we got back from the wedding, and I'll do it every day until we go to Maine. And things are looking marginally better. Marginally. Um, but I think we can put a bookmark in it there for this episode. I would like to thank you for letting me throw this at you randomly. It's totally not what we do here.
It was fun.
Um, we touched briefly in our last episode about what we're doing next. Um, so you can go watch that episode and watch till the end if you want to know what we're doing next. Uh, Cliff notes: we are recording this in the middle of September, and I'm going to be going on a 10-day road trip to Maine. Becca has a busy second half of her September, so we're going to be doing our own thing with books for the next half a month. And then in the first week of October, we're going to be starting a new buddy read. Becca has some um, series like From Bone to Ash, she recommended, things like that we could potentially read. And maybe, possibly, if you have any good book recs, we could also just do one-off things for the month of October relating to Halloween. Things like that. So sometime in the middle of October, I think you might be watching this in the middle of October. Like it might literally be a month after we record it because of travel schedules. But we'll be back with the book content, and it'll be Halloween books. It'll be a new buddy read series, everything. And we'll finish out 2025 really strong like that. We'll get back to the typical buddy reads. So, we'll be back with more book content soon then. Anything on your end there?
Until next time.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.
Thanks for showing up.